You are listening to All Burgundy and Go Everything with the Urban Sports Scene on Fox Sports Radio 96.9 FM and 1340 AM Hopewell, Virginia. I'm Wole and I'm your host. Mo and the homie Ray Jeezy are out. We also have Jamual, Forrest, host of the Trap or Dive podcast. What's up, Jamual? And welcome to All Burgundy and Go Everything with the Urban Sports Scene, my man.
Everything, man. I love how you say that, bro. I love I appreciate you having me. I know we were talking for a little minute to chop it up and talk a little Washington football for a minute. So I'm glad we was able to get this through. You know what I'm saying? We could talk a little ball. Unfortunately, you know where we know where we are with the team at this point, but you know it is what it is.
It is what definitely, bro. You know what? Before we get into all that, man, I want my listeners to know about you. Know about your podcast. Can you tell my listeners about Trap or Die podcast?
So, well, I appreciate you again, first and foremost. But you know, Trap and Dive is just a iteration of DC sports, but mainly, obviously, the Washington football team and the NFL. We're a little bit more niche. We talk about obviously just football, but you know, we have a little sprinkle of some life topics. But obviously, main focus is the things that's going on around the DMV as it relates to the Washington football team and occasionally the NFL at large with a couple other friends who happens to be Titans and Cowboys. So if you're looking for a good conversation, but obviously some people who know the game, just like a few other people in this area, you know, we are the source of sorts. You know, I don't like to talk about myself like that, man. It's just weird.
Look,
you know,
when I'm gonna tell you. Let me tell you, like, bro, I listen to the podcast, man. I like it because y'all real. You don't keep it a buck. Y'all real. I like that, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had, you know, somebody come to me and was like about like my brand, my podcast about how, you know, we don't have our voice enough out here talking about the team, right? Our voice ain't out there. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Yeah. Our voice. And like, it's dope having y'all talk about the team and y'all break it down, you know, and it makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Rather than having people try to play the politic game and always having this kumbaya moment, just keep it 100. And I like that about y'all.
I appreciate that because that's a talking point. It's hard for me to talk about myself in that aspect, but like when that's what we strive for. Just put it that way. Yeah. That's what we strive for. I never really jived with. I feel so old saying that word, but I never really jived with just the people who, you know, want to toe the company line and things like that. It's just not me. Now, there's going to be some moments like where all of us, like where we all just say, you know, this is, you know, what they're doing good. This is what we need to look forward to. But then if you don't understand the 20 plus years that has occurred with this team and you're still looking for hope after 25 years, which is fine. But if you can't wade through what's the good and what's the bad and where like that awareness part, then I don't know. Like that's kind of what we're here for. That's what you're here for. You're here to do, and it's up to the people who listen to really take that for what it's worth. And I mean, fortunate for all of us, you know, we have an audience, and that's a good thing.
And definitely, and again, and not just say that to limit your audience. I mean, I say for us, there's not a lot of us, you know, representation in terms of talking about, you know, just in terms of any sports talk in this area, and just you can talk about the Washington football team, but your content is still good enough for anybody's background. You know what I'm saying? Because you guys are informative. You know what I mean about anybody's background. So that's what I like about y'all. So all right, how can folks get your podcast, and what are some of the platforms you're on?
All right. So Trap or Dive, you can find Trap or Dive on obviously Instagram with the clips, and Trap or Dive YouTube has all of the live playbacks and clips of the show as well. So you have some live streams on Trap or Dive YouTube. Let Martell is my Twitter. You can catch us on there through, I mean, basically through my words, but also Trap or Dive I have a link to all the information as well. So that's the first thing. And the last thing is Trap or Dive podcast, which is on all podcast platforms. If you just search Trap or Dive, it'll pop up. It has information there as well. So YouTube is where you want to find a live stream. Same thing as Twitch, but I find that YouTube is easier for people. One of these days, people are going to get hip to Twitch and how that's much more beneficial to the streamer itself. But that's another conversation. So YouTube, Trapper Dive.
I'm gonna have you school me to Twitch. I don't even know about Twitch. I'm gonna have you school me to it.
Worth it, trust me. It's worth
it. Really? Okay, I'm gonna have you school me to it. All right. Hey, also subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, and Google Podcasts. Just search All Burgundy and go Errrything with the Urban Sports Scene. Also tweet us at Urban Sports Scene and hit us up on our Urban Sports Scene Facebook page. Make sure you subscribe to the Urban Sports Scene YouTube channel as well. So make sure you check that out. All right, man. It's time for the pregame. Here's what we have on tap. We'll talk about the Washington football team losing to the Philadelphia Eagles 20-16. The team name announcement. Then finally, their upcoming game against the New York Giants, because we all know Joe Judge is salty. All right. Sunday, the Washington football team fell to the Philadelphia Eagles 20-16. What were your thoughts about that game?
On a macro level, I felt like the team, to be honest with you, and people didn't like to hear it in the moment, but look, the team they played fine. They played their heart out. They gave their effort, and that's when it comes to this team, that's really that's all you can really ask for. Sometimes. And that's kind of where we switch it up. On the macro level, they fought hard given their circumstances. But then again, you talk about the things within the game in itself. The Philadelphia Eagles, they fell down multiple scores yet again against the Washington football team. And Washington didn't have the horses to really sustain, but also they had lapses on each side of the ball, not special teams per se, but obviously offense and defense, where you kind of realize, all right, this team just isn't talented enough. So offensively, you get shut out in the second half. Score 16 points, obviously lose 20-16. You score 16 points in the first half, score on all 4 possessions offensively. And the defense, they hold their own. Like, the dam is about to break, but can the offense help your defense out? Yeah. Like, it's about to happen. We all see it's about to happen. Yeah. But can your offense go? In the second half, Philly found that switch that they flipped. And that's kind of where things fell apart on both sides of the ball. The offense really couldn't sustain any drives. I think they had 4, I believe, in the second half, or maybe 3, maybe even 3 half. And you really only produce anything on your last drive that ends up, out of all things, interception. Like that's how things end up. And then defensively, you just can't really stop Jalen Hurts. So from a micro level, the team, you just realize how lack of talent, that exists on that team. Obviously, there's some side, but I really don't like to use that excuse, because prior to these injuries, prior to week 10, you had a relatively healthy team and you were 2-6. So you kind of see things culminate in that regard. And it's unfortunate, especially with a team who had expectations on one side of the ball that just couldn't really live up to anything.
So for me, everybody knows on social media that I'm like anti-Scott Turner. Like, that's my thing right now. And in that 4-game winning streak, because you're right, like, they're limited offensively speaking. But on a 4-game winning streak, I thought that he was coaching, he coached the offense well, because and I'm a basketball coach, I always state this, like, the talent of your players, and what your players can do, and what they can't do, and if your quarterback isn't capable of doing things within your offense. So you kind of do things that are tailored to them, and things that, you tailor things to your strength. So in this game against the Eagles, you saw that local dude, Patterson, was getting busy, averaging about 4.8 yards a carry. And you're giving him limited carries, but you're still going back to the dude again, who has shown right now that the league has kind of found him out even more so than before. They found him out. Talk about Scott Turner. If you being the offensive coordinator, would you have leaned more to Patterson rather than just airing it out with Taylor Heineke?
To be honest with you, you brought up a good point. The offense, at least in the first half, you saw with 12 carries, I believe, with Patterson. I think he ended up with 12. He had 8 carries in the first half and for like 40-something yards or something like that. Look, good yards per carry average. The offense in itself was moving. It was balanced. You had a good mix between the run and the pass. I would like to know, this is our first time officially really speaking type of form. I would like to know where you are with Turner, because for me, he has his moments, right? And when you have your moments and you're on fire, that's one thing. But when you face adversity and you're challenged a little bit with a little pressure, you know, you gotta gotta stay ahead of the sticks. You kind of have to make sure your quarterback executes. You kind of have to make sure you put people in the right position. All these things just start culminating in your head, and you're like, oh snap, I'm not sticking to what got me here. And the reason why this is the first half, everything worked out. Like the balance part is what happened in that 4-game win streak. But when you go into the second half and you kind of see, you know, it's not all on the offensive side of the football. Like the defense they didn't get off the field. That's one thing. That's the thing. The defense did not get off the field. But at the same time, how did the offense help you? And when you look at an offense who dropped back and passed the ball much more times than I believe than they really should have, again, like you said with Taylor Heineke, you kind of put yourself behind the sticks, and that's kind of where things start to falter. So I would love to know your full opinion on Scott Turner. I think it's fair to say that he needs more time, but also think it's fair to say, man, do you really want to see him with a new quarterback, with more talent and have him underachieve in that same point?
That's the thing. See, this is my issue. I don't know if I trust him with a young quarterback. Like, I don't think he's we've seen it in years with like Jason Campbell and folks like that, where they've dealt with bad offensive coordinators, and it's kind of ruined stunt their growth. So my thing about, you know, having a guy who is still relatively young in the play calling game, right? Everyone talks about like, this guy's a genius. And I'm like, where do you get that information from? Because his name is Turner? Like, that doesn't mean the nepotism. We got to stop the nepotism, because all I can do is judge you off what you can do. This is the thing. We've seen, even in DC, with all the crap they dealt with in the past with coaches, we've seen good offensive play callers. Like, here we have seen it. Like, we saw it with Sean McVay. We saw it with Jay. Like, Jay is a good play. Regardless of what you feel about Jay Gruden, offensively, he's a good play caller. Like, you know what a good play caller is. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like an offensive link. You may not, you know, a creative one when you see one. Like, you may scratch your head and be like, why do you keep running that play? But you know that this individual is moving up and down with certain quarterback play. I'm gonna give you an example. Do you think Colt McCoy is a good freaking NFL starting quarterback?
Starting, no, absolutely not.
Jay Gruden had him look half decent at times, but fans used to really think that this dude should start over certain quarterbacks.
Yeah, it was a lot of conversation.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, a lot of conversation. That's when, you know, to me, when you can literally look at a dude with a weak arm, all that type stuff, and say, yeah, he ain't a starting quarterback. And the offensive, they've created a system so you can look half decent. You already kind of know. And you're wasting a dog in Scary Terry. Like, you got a dog. It's not like other years, like, who can you throw the football to? Like, you have dudes you can throw the football to. You know what I mean? Yeah. So when I look at him, yeah, go ahead, bro.
All right, so I was saying, speaking of Terry, you brought up a good point. Like, one of the things that I took issue with, I had to put it in my notes, was the game, 4th and 5. 4th and 5, I believe, second half, obviously. Yeah. And you roll out, you know, obviously cutting off half the field already, but you roll out on your right, and you end up throwing it 4th and 5, out route to Dax Mill. I forgot his name for a second, but
sure.
Mill. And I don't have an issue with the play itself, but in times in which you need your best players, in times in which you need that Terry McLaurin, or you need Cam Sims, who was the guy last year who stepped up with Terry and who stepped up with Logan. Obviously, Logan being out this week and being out the rest of the season, you don't really look for Cam, you don't really look for Terry, but you're going to trust a rookie in a spot where you got to convert a 4th and 5. And extend the play, especially with your back against the wall. I think they had just took the lead. Philly had just took the lead on the previous drive for them. So for Scott Turner, it's not necessarily always a play calling, but it's also dealing with the schemes. And when you do the schemes and trying to put people in the right places, or you're trying to target a certain individual, when we worry about why Cam, or even for me, Cam is a big deal, because he's seeing less than 10% of the snaps the entire season. But to your point with Terry, when you're trying to make sure that these guys get the proper targets and the right targets at the right time, sometimes Scott Turner drops the ball. And when I'm saying sometimes, I'm being generous. It's a lot of.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's just that, and even Antonio Gibson, when healthy, it's like, dude, man, like, folks have been clamoring. And I just feel like fans can't be smarter than coaches. Folks have been clamoring, like, to have Gibson, running routes, like trying to isolate him against linebackers. And
100%.
we've seen a couple of times to the end of the season, and we're like, yo, this could work. You could be utilizing this. There are so many things that people complain about, even for a guy like Taylor Heineke, right? Who doesn't have the strongest arm, but you have him airing it out like he has a strong arm. But why not utilize Gibson in intermediate routes, like on mismatches? Like there are other individuals you could target. If I say you can't get the ball to Scary on stride, like that may be something that's like the tar for him to keep, to hit Terry on stride for really big plays. Yeah. Unless Terry makes a phenomenal play, right? But you have situations where you can hit Gibson in the flat or Gibson one-on-one on linebacker. You can isolate that because, again, he has wide receiver skills because he's a wide receiver at Memphis. So there's certain things, like I'm not going to get into like all of I feel like his in terms of plays he calls, or I don't think how lack of the creativity he does have. But I will say, in terms of just the purest thing of coaches, this is why I have an argument with folks on social media. The purest thing in coaching is to tailor everything to your talent and to your team to help your team win football games. It may not be sexy. It's just, if you look at what the Jacksonville Jaguars did years ago, they had their Blake Bortles was their quarterback. Did they air it out with Blake Bortles? No, they gave the ball to Leonard Fournette and even the other young boy from Alabama, and they just TJ Yeldon and ran the football. That's all they did pretty much, and they got them to the AFC Championship game. Played defense, ran the football, held the time possession. You look at the San Francisco 49ers last year. Dude, a couple years ago, Garoppolo won a football game, throwing the ball 8 times.
Yeah.
8 times. That's Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan didn't say, you know what? Jimmy G didn't throw the ball 20, 30 times. You know what? I mean, he only threw the ball like 10 times so far. 5 times so far. But you know what? My running back's averaging like about 7 yards a carry. I should still throw the ball. No, he's like, no, let me get a ball to my back who giving me 7 yards a pop. That's how you do it.
Doing this, I want to see what we do when we throw the football. I don't care if we throw the football.
I just want to see it.
I want to see.
That's the thing. I feel like that's what he does. So,
going coaches sometimes, and like you're in that lane. I didn't know you were a coach, but you're in that lane where you understand sometimes where there is something that tells them this can work if in their head, if we just do it the way I drew it up. So let's go ahead and call this because I know this can work. Regardless of what's working right now, I want to show you all what also can work. And with Washington, I don't know. Like in the past, there was also business decisions. Yeah. And what I mean by that, for those who aren't aware, there was also like an emphasis sometimes. Matter of fact, I guess the biggest example that we can put out there and then how it translates to Washington, the Super Bowl, Seattle Seahawks against the New England Patriots, where you're at the goal line and you get a random but the business decision tells you want to win it with Russell Wilson, so we're going to drop back and throw a slant that ultimately gets picked off when you could have ran it in and got a touchdown in the game too, but you wanted to feature Russell Wilson and have his moment. The thing with Washington, there's also been times in the past, it's subtle, like the Seattle thing was subtle, but you kind of figured out as time went by where you feature certain players or you feature certain things in your offense because you want to show that something can work. But if it's working, you have nobody else but to blame but yourself. And I'm not saying that's the same case with Scott Turner, but I'm saying that it's possible that he can also be in this lane where he wants to showcase his skill set, but he just doesn't have the horses.
I totally agree, my man. I totally agree. So, all right, I'm gonna go to another player who's been maligned this season as well. Young boy, linebacker Jamin Davis, only got 13 snaps in this game yesterday. Coach Rivera said, and I'm paraphrasing, that he's not sure Jamin is suited to be playing middle linebacker. How much blame do you put this on Rivera in terms of Davis's struggles? Or is it just on Jamin Davis for being Jamin Davis?
It's on Jamin. And I think that's a good question. We were actually talking about that. Our stream just ended. And that was the last question that we asked about the quote Rivera gave. And I tried to figure out where they went wrong. Like when we drafted Jamin, did we all think, or did the consensus think that Jamin Davis was that middle linebacker that Ron Rivera was looking for? Was he that Luke Kuechly that Ron Rivera was looking for? Because I truly don't know, and I won't know until tomorrow. Because when I finish, I put everything down. I'm not back at anything until tomorrow. But that question at the time when we were talking about it, like, what did we think of Jamin Davis during the moment in which he was drafted? And the reason why I asked that question is because what is Rivera telling us? It has nothing to do with the player. Like what we knew of the player at the time was that Jamin Davis was a first-year starter. Jamin Davis was also a rough project. Jamin Davis up the draft boards late after tested, and all those numbers came out where he was a projected third, fourth round pick, and ended up being in the first. We knew all of these things. What did Ron Rivera know at the time? And what did we take away from what Ron Rivera knew? Like when they were projecting those things, did we take away from a fan base perspective that this was going to be our Luke Kuechly? This was going to be that middle linebacker who was the head of the ship and things like that. If our answer was, and again, like I said, I'm going to look back at it tomorrow, but if our answer was yes, we were led to believe this was the middle linebacker, this was the future of that position, then his responsibility or Ron Rivera's responsibility was dropped off. Like he did not take care of his items, because the question was asked to him, is he suited for middle linebacker? Are we going to look to change his position? And Ron Rivera said they are looking into that. That is an issue. And I kind of think that they dropped the ball somewhere, but I also think that they pushed and put a little bit too much on his plate early on to think that he can do something, knowing his background, which was flat out, he was inexperienced. We knew that. We knew that.
I just think they didn't utilize him to what he does best. He's a fast linebacker. Yeah. And I didn't see we like to see. To me, I would have liked to see him rush the passer more. Use that speed on blitzes instead of trying to make, like you said, over confuse him. Because you look with Dallas Cowboys, I wanted Micah Parsons. I make no joke. I make no mistakes about that. That's why I wanted to draft. I said, you trade up. Once I saw that he was slipping, I was like, trade up. I don't even care. I don't care what the draft picks are. Just trade up. I said it. Like I said, like I don't care. Like because I remember hearing reports and rumors that Washington, like Rivera liked him a lot, that he would be willing to trade up for Micah Parsons. I was like, once he slipped to like past 10, get him now. Like you don't even have to play this. This is close enough where you don't got to really lose an arm or leg. You can lose that first round pick. If you want to lose a second, third, I'm cool with it. Like this is the one you should get. But on the flip side, like looking in the draft, looking at mocks and stuff like that, I was cool with getting Jamin in the second. Cause I said it beforehand, like I wouldn't mind getting Jamin in the second, third. Like I thought about that. Okay. Like I did like what he brought to the table. I like the speed. I'm just not a fan of when you got bad play in front of you. Like you have bad play in front of you. If you play behind somebody who's dope, then all right, yeah, you should sit and watch. When you got bad play in front of you, it don't matter. You was getting 30 anyway. Just play him. Like I feel like he could learn. Just play him. You giving up 30 in the beginning of the season, he wasn't getting snaps, right? He wasn't getting snaps in the beginning of the season. You're playing Bostic, it ain't stopping you from shutting the team down, is it? It ain't, because you're giving up 30 some points in the beginning of the year. You know what I'm saying? What's 30? Instead of giving up 35, you're giving up 35. You could be giving up 42. Okay, but at least that dude's learning. You know what I'm saying? Because I felt like 35. Okay, 7 more. Woo! You know what I'm saying? Like James is gonna cost you 7 more to your 35. You're already getting blown out. Okay, what's the harm of playing James? Because I felt like when he started playing more, he was getting better. Like he was getting better in terms of what you asked him to do. He was making some plays. You can see he got some confidence. But I do think he's a project in terms of putting it on. I do put it on Ron, because at the end of the day, like we can look at him in terms of saying, yeah, he got speed and whatever on that Madden stuff. I call it the Madden talk. Like he runs a 4.3, 4.4. Like shoot, that's Madden stuff. Like, oh, you put that here, he can catch everybody. But on the end of the day, like this is you decided to get him at 19, knowing he's a project. Telling me, bruh, you making too many decisions that you don't need to be making. You got to put that on your GM. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the reason why I said, like, yo, missing Kyle Smith was in it. Like, Kyle Smith was people, saying like, oh, Kyle Smith is gone, part of the old regime, but Kyle Smith was good with the drafts on the low. Like it or not, he was good with the drafts on the low.
I think one thing that you brought on that, I mean, we've talked about it as a fan base. We talked about it for months on end with the Davis conversation.
Yeah.
When you have to tell us, and let this be a lesson learned to all of us. Like,
yes,
this.
all.
So when you have to tell us that your first round project may take some time to develop or may be a project, then you messed up. I'm glad I called. I'm about to let a little word loose.
My man.
But when you have to tell us that your may take some time before you get on the field, or may take some time to develop, or he ain't ready just yet, you messed up. Yep. And you shouldn't be drafting a team, and let's be specific here. Like you for New England Patriots, when they had Tom Brady, or for a Kansas City Chiefs team who drafted Mahomes when they had Alex Smith, or a Pittsburgh Steelers team, or even Joe Flacco with Lamar Jackson, when you have players in certain positions where they have that luxury to develop, you can draft that guy in the first round. But when you're a team who is already trying to rebuild or restructure your roster and take pivotal pieces in that early rounds and make sure that they contribute immediately, like Sam Cosmi did, who took Morgan Moses' job. We didn't see it in the beginning, but when he killed, we saw this is the guy that they wanted, and this is the guy who seemingly has hit on Sam Cosmi. When you take Jamin Davis in round 1, pick 19, and you say that he's a project, you messed up.
Yeah, I think we get hyped as fans. I agree with you. We get hyped as fans, and now even that the question is, if you're talking about moving him to another position, then what are you gonna do with Landon? Because Landon was so good in that situation. So now it's like,
snip.
Don't do that. Like, don't do that. Like, don't say that now. Like, we're gonna move him. We got Stevie's good at that position. Nah, bruh. Like, basically, this is what's gonna probably happen. Because you just got to be what it is. Landon was playing at he's playing at Pro Bowl level before he got hurt at that position. Like, he's playing that good. So you're not going to bench that. Like, I ain't stupid. You're not going to bench that unless you're not going to bench that at all for a dude that you're not sure about, as a project. Like, you got to see how he works out. You're going to probably try to get another linebacker. You're going to get a real middle linebacker or something to that. You'll get a real middle linebacker. And then James is going to be on the bench. That's probably what's going to happen. And then your 19th pick overall is on the bench.
Again, look, they already cut AGG, Andy Golden. There was another guy who was on the brink. His name is slipping me right now. But you have in early round, mid to early round projects or players who are on they're teetering right now. Yeah. Look, that ain't no good. That ain't no good at all.
That's why I tell folks, when you assess Ron, and I like Ron. Don't get twisted. I want nobody like I don't like Ron. I do like Ron, but I'm a realist in terms of we all know about developing a program, right? That's what I'm saying. Like, when you develop a program, when your job is, you're taking over something that wasn't doing well, and now you're the dude to build a whole program. We know what progression is. Like, no one's blind. Like, I don't ever want to hear, well, give them time. All right, look, we're in the present, bro. Like, we're in the present. All right, we're not in the future. In the present, direct answer is this ascending? Like, we know what is ascending, or is it average, or is it leveling it out right now? And that's the thing. Like, when you build a program, like, for instance, you look at Miami, right? You could see that they're like getting better every year, like the Dolphins. You see some other situations where they're just winning off the bat. You saw from when Jim Harbaugh came to San Francisco, where they were like, Alex Smith was a bust. Everybody was depressed. And of year 1 to year 2, they were getting better. You know what I mean? NFC championship, he gets to the Super Bowl. Like, you see progression. Like, and then you see like this team is now a consistent contender till he has to leave San Francisco at the end of his contract. So a situation where when a new coach gets in town and they're building something. Mike Tomlin is another example. Like, they're building a constant situation of winning. Like they're building a real environment of winning. You know what I'm saying? When you look at this situation now, yeah, everybody's gonna go through and say we were 3-13 the year before. Oh, yeah, it's true. They were 3-13. But you know what they were the year before 3-13? They were pretty about the same. They're about 7-9 with Jay Gruden, 7-9, 8-7-1, stuff like that. That's what their record was before the 3-13 year. So I'm not saying Ron is, I believe in Ron. So I put that out there. But we have to assess him for what it is. You know what I'm saying? And if you look at his track record, to be fair, this is about what it is, other than a couple great years with Cam.
That's literally what I've said. I think because I'm new to this audience, I do want to say one thing about Ron. I'm indifferent on Ron. I was indifferent when they heard him. I'm not necessarily a fan. He's a person who has to make me believe.
Fact.
But with that being said, to your point, is that actions always have to meet the words, and has been one person who I've noticed over this time, over this two-year period. I'm not gonna say he's done a lot of talking, because that's not the case. But when things are going good,
oh my God,
and it's like you haven't done anything yet. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm not necessarily saying he's the one who brags all the time. That's not him. It's just more so when things are doing good with no substantial evidence that what he's doing is successful, versus something that's just been a hot streak, i.e. the 5 out of 7 in 2020, and then the 4 straight in the middle of the season in 2021. That's not substantial. That's just a hot streak. That's just something that, worked out in your favor. And he's puffed his chest out. The team is taking, to him. And again, I'm not here to knock that moment, but at the end of the day, if you evaluate a coach for who he is, his 2 seasons in Washington, he's lost 9 games and he's lost 10 in potentially 11, depending on the outcome of the Giants game. So you're talking about a guy who has only won 13 games in his first 2 years. And then a coach who's won, he's had 3 winning seasons in Carolina out of 10. So it's a lot that you have to evaluate from the coaching's perspective. And if you don't do that because you say you want to give him time, then you're already late. Yeah. You're already late because you missed out on 2 years of evaluation, because then when if things don't work out, you're going to figure out where things went wrong. And it's like, we've been telling you this entire time what's been going on. But if things have been going right and you're saying, I told you so, you still missed out, because what has he done? How can you explain to us what he's done over the years to improve himself? We can tell you, because we've been following for 2 years. Yeah, exactly. But can you sit here and say that you really knew that this was going on? Or can you tell us that you just had faith? Like, it's a lot, man. And if you're waiting to evaluate Ron Rivera, you're already behind the curve.
See, when I told you initially when you was on in the beginning of the show, I said you keep it real. Like, I don't need, like, you don't got to worry about the fan. You don't worry about the fan base. The listeners listening here, you don't got to worry about that. You know what I mean? You good. Like, you telling them what it is. So that's the thing about me with Ron. Like, that's my love and hate relationship with Ron. To your point, that's what it is. Because I'm gonna keep it above. We all had these type of people. We already know these kind of type of people. Yeah. When everything go good, they do put the chest out. When things go bad, then you hear, man, I wish we didn't go 7-9 and win the division. So that's my issue with Ron. Like, you can't be that person. You can't be the rebuild. Like, when you on that 4-game winning streak, it wasn't about a rebuild. It was about, we could do this. We can win the division. That's what it was. That was the message. But in the beginning, when they was losing, when they were 2-6, what was the messaging? It's a rebuild. It's a frustrate. It's a rebuild. It's a rebuild.
Yelling at the media. I'm like, look, don't be frustrated at them because y'all not winning. Look, clearly they understand that you struggling. Like, what are you going to do all day? This man, there's one thing that I would never forget, and it was an elite quote. I swear to God, it was elite. The man, Rivera's, I'm gonna mess up the quote now, but Rivera said, he told somebody, I think it was a radio interview, he said, look, man, when David fought Goliath, that was just the beginning of something. Ultimately, again, I'm gonna butcher the quote, but he was like, look, at the end of the day, David, that was just the beginning of the journey. That was just the beginning of his reign. We're trying to do what David did on the long term, and he reigned for like 10 years or something like that. And that's the type of movie he was on. Like, it was a fire quote, and I butchered it. I swear to God, like but when you look at, he said it in the midst of their 4-game winning streak, and then all of a sudden, these guys have lost 4 straight now. And you look back, that was so elite. You look back at it and you're like, damn, all of what he said means nothing no more, because it was just a matter of an individual puffing his chest out for that fire quote. And now your team has lost 4 straight, and not many people have that much faith in you.
Facts, bro. Facts. And you're listening to All Burgundy Go, everything with Urban Sports Scene. Right now, I'm chatting with Jamual, Forrest, host of the Trap or Die podcast. So right now, would you say that year 3 is pivotal, very important for Coach Rivera?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the thing is, he said as such in his presser, the same presser that we were speaking on, he spoke on it Monday. Year 3 is going to be big, man. And for him to acknowledge that, he kind of put himself in a bind, and that's his fault, you know, but he's speaking the truth, and he's quite aware of that. He's quite aware of the audience that he's speaking to as well. When you lose 9+ games in your first 2 seasons, and not only do that, your strongest unit that you kind of really, you know, look forward to seeing improve and be better in your defense, and it severely underwhelms. Like, you're 27th in the NFL, I believe, this year, statistically in yards. You kind of know where you are. You know where you are year 3. You know that you need a quarterback. You know that you need to find a way to immediately retool this defense. I wouldn't say rebuild, but retool and figure out what pieces need to go where. Like you spoke on with Jamin Davis, you kind of figure these things out ASAP. And if you find that quarterback, that helps you out. But you know the pressure is on in terms of you finding that quarterback, finding key pieces to help significantly improve your team and help contribute to wins, because right now you're not going to get it done with a mediocre quarterback, a bottom tier quarterback, a backup quarterback. You're not going to get it done with that. You're not going to get it done with the defense playing the way it was in 2021. Whatever maturity issues or inconsistency issues that existed, if you don't iron that out from either an assistant standpoint, a coordinator standpoint, or a player standpoint, you're in trouble again. And you have a long year of something that we've already went through in 2021, where you have to figure out, what am I going to do? So year 3 is going to be big, man. And it may start with evaluating your coaches, and even understanding if you're all on the same page and if it's worth moving forward with you all working together. And what I mean by that, I'm speaking on defensive coordinator or even defensive assistants in Rivera. So year 3 is going to be big, man. Well, where are you at with it?
Well, me, I think I'm the same. I think year 3 is pivotal, man. I just feel like I don't want, like, this is how I look at it, because folks say I'm too hard on them. They need to be damn near winning division next year. Like, be real talk. Like, you got to show me improvement. I don't care about 7-9. Now you got, like you said, right now you're 6-10. You could be 6-11, or you could be 7-10. So just say, you play the Giants, just say that they go 7-10, right?
Yeah.
It's still the same thing. Like, you need improvement. There's got to be a change now. Like, if you're going to tell me that you changed the program, it's always in year 3. That's when you change the program. And this thing about quarterback, you chose this violence. Like, that's how I look at it. You chose this violence. Like, you decided to go into a situation where there was a chance for Taylor Heinicke to be a starter. You put that in a note. You put that energy out there to say Taylor Heinicke has an opportunity to start for his football team. Like, you put that energy out there. You know what I'm saying? So if you put that energy out there, that's on you, bro. That's how I look at it. That's on you. Like, you came to the season and, like, it was Fitzpatrick and Taylor Heinicke. I was cool with, Fitz don't bother me. I just felt for what I thought the defense was going to be. It wasn't going to bother me. But you still put the energy that it was a competition between those two. Like, you put that out there. So obviously you didn't care about quarterback like that thoroughly. So I don't want to. So when folks get mad about we need a quarterback, we got to judge Ron on getting a quarterback. Ron felt that this team was good enough without a top tier quarterback. Like, he felt that way. It's not like the GM screwed him. He is the GM. Like, that's the thing. He is the GM. So he screwed himself. So when we judge this dude, I'm like, yeah, year 3, you got to do it. So let's talk about we got to bring in a quarterback. Bruh, if you want to prove your program, like, again, we talk about improvement. You went 7-9 in one division. Off year, but you won a division. So you take advantage of that. So to let you know already, you should already gauge, oh, my team needs this. All right, go into the season and take care of that. Like, take care of those needs. And then year 2 is better than year 1. Then you like building something. And especially when you have money on the cap. Like, you got money. Like, you can spend some money on certain things. So I look at year 3 as it. Like, you got to look, I don't want no freaking 9. They need to win 10 games for me. Because that's when I know a program moving. I don't want no barely 9 wins, because that means you're still treading the same thing. You're still the same thing. And it's not like, and this real talk, I know it's no crap on NFC East, but it's not like you're playing in the NFC West. You're playing in the NFC East. Bruh, you can look what the Cowboys did on a turnaround, getting all their talent back. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can win over 10 games in the NFC East if you're doing what you need to do to build your program. So in year 3, I want 10 wins plus. That's what I want, because you're not seeing great competition.
Absolutely. So look, so I found the quote. I had to find it. So
okay.
This was heading into the first Dallas game against the Cowboys. They were 4-point home underdogs, and Rivera was asked. Matter of fact, it was a radio show. He was asked about that being 4-point underdogs, and he was like, "I'm fine with that. Remember this." He was like, he viewed it as David. I'm fine with that. Remember this. When he became king, he was there for 30 years, baby. So it's moments like that where you kind of look back and you listen to certain quotes from Ron, and he was feeling himself, and you understand that. And,
yeah.
Again, we're not going. It's not to pile on Ron, but just understand the mindset that he has, and understanding that if you are a coach who, I guess we just call it what it is, a front runner. If you're going,
that's what it is, bro. That's what it is.
Make sure is good and not trying to come up out the depths of mediocrity. Once you establish that level that you're a good team,
mm-hmm.
and not a team who is sometimes inconsistent, below average, because that's the bottom line definition of mediocre. Like, if you're not in that category, but you're a step above, you can talk a little bit. If that's the type of coach that you are, you can talk a little bit. But right now, you're not. And I seem as if he kind of trips over himself a lot like that, especially when it comes to media coverage, but also personnel decisions. And to your point, I guess this is a smaller conversation, but to your point, like some of the decisions that he's made, in the offseason, and it also includes with some people that he let go. Ron Darby, KPL, Kevin Pierre-Louis, and there was one more other person. The cornerback, Jimmy Moreland.
It kills me.
Yeah, because you feel like you can do better in free agency, or they weren't worth certain dollars, even though they know your system and they played well in the secondary.
Yeah,
and clearly that's what you're going through, and now you gotta find ways to recover.
Yeah, the Jimmy thing blew me, because you thought you had a better nickel situation, you didn't. But it is with like that really bothered me, because I felt like when somebody plays well for you, reward them. He played well for you. Ronald Darby played well for you. But I'm gonna give credit. Like, I felt like at the end of the season, William Jackson III played better towards the end of the season. So I'll give him his flowers in that aspect. But I'm with you. I feel like you got dudes in your system. They all worked out for you. You know, I ain't like Pierre-Louis. I thought he was a slow, fat linebacker, but I'm petty though. But I'm petty though. Like, I was like, dude, I can outrun you. I tore ACL, dude, I can outrun you.
And if they kept one or the other, I probably would have kept KPL.
Oh, for real? Now I feel you, bro. Like,
which one you taking? You had to choose one or the other.
Man, I would have drafted a lot. I would have got Michael Parsons.
Let them both go all in for linebacker.
Yeah, I would go all in, bro. Like, when you see what it is. He a dog. But yeah, like, to your point though, I just felt he a front runner. That's what I don't like about him, man. I don't like that. Like, I don't like that about him. And it's not piling on him. I think if you're really watching it for what it is, you know what it is. And because I grew up like watching Joe Gibbs, and that man was going to win the street, and he would be chill as I don't know what. Even 2.0,
like that.
Like
I'm a youngin.
Yeah,
that's a guy where it's like, and I guess it depends on the type of personality you reside with, the emotional that you're familiar with, and I respect humility. That's the type of people that I kind of lean towards, and Gibbs has always been that type of person. I'm not gonna sit here and say Ron is arrogant or anything like that, but there's no shadow of a doubt that he's stubborn. There's no shadow of doubt he has a semblance of arrogance, excuse me. But I don't think it's full blown arrogance. He just has some ways about him, and it's nothing, detrimental, but it can get in the way, especially if you're not winning. And I think that's what's going on right now. He's not winning.
That's the thing. That's the thing. Is like, to your point, is the arrogance of he's not winning. He's not willing to change. Like Coach Gibbs, bro. Like even the 2.0 version. I'm not even gonna go like the 2.0 version. Man, this dude, just to the point, like, he was going on a 6-game winning streak, and it's not like he's super hype. He's like, it's the same thing. Like he was on a losing streak. It's the same exact thing. You know what I'm saying? He's not even, when it comes into credit, he's just giving credit to his players. He's saying, nothing I'm doing, all to his players. That's all he did. Every week on the presser. When people said, like, even when he was struggling, he said, it's my fault. He never, do that little, oh man, why the media keep getting on me? It was never that. He took it all in. He said, it's my fault. Just took it in and kept it moving. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's my issue with Coach Rivera. He don't have that humility like Coach Gibbs does. And even to be real, like the whole bench crowd. Like Coach Gibbs wouldn't care about no bench coming to FedEx. What he would do was, in his own situation, would say, we're gonna get these dudes. Like, you knew he was a competitor behind the scenes, but he ain't gonna show you that he pissed off like that. He ain't gonna show you his hand. You know what I mean? And then go be his pays to match you back in Dallas. And then, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I ain't gonna lie. I do think that was I think we know Dan had a little bit to play with that though. Like Dan
about doing that. Oh, he weak. They all weak. They weak for doing it, bro. They weak for doing it.
I 100% agree. I don't know. And you know what's wild? He already committed to doing it for the three road games. So we about to see them things in New York or New Jersey in the Meadowlands. About to be them benches again.
Yeah, it's annoying, man. It's like, it's the weakest move ever. Like, bruh, like, all right. They did it to you and they won. That's in one thing, and they won. That's annoying. Secondly, then you try to copycat and do it elsewhere. You a Bama. I'm sorry. And then you do it at their home. You a Bama. I'm sorry. If y'all don't know what that means you a sucker. Like, you a Bama. Like for real.
Gonna pull something off like that, and lo and behold, the one team who pulled it off right, unfortunately, was the team that's our rival. So like. They pulled it off right. They did it. Went out there, won. You can't recreate nothing if you ain't got nothing to stand on.
Yeah, facts, bro. Facts. All right, so the teams are promoted. They're finally announcing their the team name February 2nd. Are you big into this team name thing? Because I'm personally over it. I don't care for it, but it's good to have other people's opinions.
In the grand scheme of things, I don't really care that much. But I was saying earlier, the name thing, I'm excited because we're towards the end. Okay. I think that's the fandom that still exists. That the fandom that still exists, but the fandom that still exists is still there, and forward to a conclusion. And that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I'm the name digging and eliminating based on what we know, who's in your own investigation work. That's something worth looking into. Like, I think that there was a list of 8. There was a list of 8 that they presented to us heading into the season. And one of the few that were on there is already been eliminated just off understanding what has happened since the time they released it in the summer. And that's like, obviously Red Wolves is gone. We found it out. Yeah.
Jason Wright.
Yeah, with Jason Wright. We found out Red Wolves, all that stuff is gone. Lo and behold, Red Wolves and Wolves, though people don't know, has already been gone for 6, and Washington didn't tell anybody. But Rick Snyder, who does really good research, he knew that Washington knew for at least 6 months, because the Timberwolves had all Wolves, in all iterations of Wolves, they had that on lockdown. So the NBA rid of that. So Washington knew for at least 6 months that which was the fans' favorite, by the way, that not going to be the new team name. But they just told us today. But secondly, like the Armada, which was a name that I like, that's probably not going to be the name. And then you have Red Hogs, Washington football team that was up there.
Is Red Tails still there? I saw some rumor that Red Tails.
I think Red Tails was on the list. It was Red something. I think it was Red. see Red Hogs and Red Tails.
Mm-hmm.
But Brigade was up there as well. But point being, it only points to commanders, presidents, and I want to say generals, I believe. But yeah, and just doing that investigation work makes it exciting. But in the grand scheme of things, February 2nd is the day I'm looking forward to. I don't really, it's whatever the name is, it is. But
It is, yeah.
My ish if it happens to be all any type of Hawk stuff, bro. I may lose it.
I feel you. No, I feel you. I just feel like they like they're doing this whole. It's wild how they put this whole promotion together after like the Eagles just beat y'all in the playoff run. In the playoff run. I feel like it's marketing. It is. It's marketing. And I'm like, I'm woke. Like, y'all not gonna get me. Like, I'm not gonna be part of this. Like, I tell folks, I was like on Twitter, I'm like, hey man, y'all not gonna get me. I'm still looking at the product on the field. Like, I'm still pissed the product on the field. Y'all not gonna gas me up and get me hype for a name. Like, I know what's going on here. I ain't stupid. Like, I ain't dumb. Y'all not gonna fool me. Like, and get everybody speculating and trying to crack the case of what the name's gonna be before February 2nd. Like, I'm not into that type of lifestyle, bro. They ain't gonna get me with that. I'm like, win football games, bro.
Smart. I mean, you kind of hinted to that too, like with the outline. Like we talked about the team first and then the name second. At the end of the day,
yeah,
the name stuff doesn't make a difference if you aren't winning. And that's what it ultimately revert back to. Like if you unveil a new name and the head coach that you hired 2 years ago brings in that new name with the dud of a season, you just go back. You're the Charlotte Hornets. Like when the Charlotte name got debuted, whatever year it was, I don't remember anymore. But when the Charlotte Hornets name got debuted, look, that season, the first few seasons, I mean, even till today, where they're not necessarily consistent winners, like they're losers.
Basically,
they're losers. That new name meant nothing. And where you at? And what's even worse is that Washington is a bigger market than Charlotte. So if you're a bigger market, you're going to get tons of national media attention. And then they ask you, how did that season go in 2022? And Rivera produces a 7-8 win season, and he's on the brink of getting fired.
No, I totally, at least it's like I totally agree with you. It reminds me, all right, so this is what I use a good example of trying to change the name because of whatever connotation. When the Bullets changed their names from the Bullets to the Wizards, right? They just have Jamual. They got Jamual Howard, Chris Webber on the squad, and they had just went to the playoffs and played Michael Jordan, the Bulls in the playoffs. So that was the best time. I think the following year they may have just missed the playoffs, but they were already doing the campaigning because of that nice playoff run. You just got Jamual and Chris Webber. You had the Fab Five type of thing to it, the marketing. These two are together. They got to the playoffs. They gave Jordan and Pippen some work in the playoffs. They got swept, but they competed in all the games, and all the games were tight. But so that was a good time to do it because you gave the fans hope. Like the fans had hope now. Like now is excitement. Like, oh, the Bullets are going to be good. We don't care. We don't want you to change the name, but it's the Southeast. Southeast, because where the stadium was located, where the arena was located. That was at that time. DC had the highest murder rate, so they were like, all right, Bullets had a bad connotation. We trying to change the name, but it was the vibe was different, bro. Like the vibe was different. Like they were competing. They were ascending. Like here, you ain't ascending. You just like, you know what? You're just a normal squad. You're not doing anything special. Like this year has not been a happy year. It really hasn't. And name change. So just go ahead and throw that out there. Name change. Let's try to bring something fresh to the ball club. I mean, I'm salty. I ain't gonna lie. I'd rather have the old name. It is what it is. I get it. So I get why people are what it is, but I grew up with that name. You know what I'm saying? So, but I get it. I don't feel like hearing no drama and crap like that. I'm over that stuff too. To your point, February 2nd, I want it all gone, man. Like I'm done. Like I don't want to hear nothing. Just give me a name, and it's everybody rock with it.
Yeah, I'm in that same. But I think the one thing that I add, because I thought it was funny that you brought it up. One of the things that I add, it has nothing to do with you. It was something I heard on the radio that made me think of it. Somebody who called in, and this person called in and said, he said, man, I grew up on this. He said, I grew up on this Redskins name, and all I know is blah, 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 right? And start talking. And in my head, I'm like, can you name anybody outside of yourself who didn't grow up on the Redskins name and was a fan of the Redskins and all these other things? And I'm just sitting here thinking, like, at the end of the day, we're all cut from the same cloth if we're a fan. And you can, you know, have your feelings about the team, which is fine. But if you're going to sit here and preface it by saying, you know, I grew up on the name, I just never really understood it. Not you. I'm talking about
no, I get you. No, I'm with you, bro. I'm with you.
I'm like, if you grew up on this name, we all grew up on the name. You just have to understand, like, if you disagree with it, that's one thing, but don't preface it by saying that, because we all have to adapt to change, but somehow, and it's either adapting or it's either, you know what, I disagree, but I'm not gonna let it bother me or affect me too much. If they can win, maybe I come around to the name. But if they lose, I may be even more upset.
Yeah, I think for real, if they win, it don't matter. No, real talk. It don't matter too. I mean, you're going to still hold on to it, but when they win, it don't matter what name you have as long as you win. That's how I look at it, period. You know what I'm saying? Like, but before I go to this next topic, before we end the show off, you know, I'm gonna go back to the Eagles game. Ryan Kerrigan comes to FedEx, and there's no real hoopla about that. Like, it's all-time sack leader and no hoopla. Isn't that tacky by the organization? And I'm not the biggest Ryan Kerrigan fan, but I do acknowledge that he does have a sack record.
I'll tell you. And I felt it was interesting, and I felt some type of way when I saw that. I was like, it did make sense that a guy who was up there in terms of sack leaders, you know, he got no recognition when he came back. I don't know. It's interesting. I'm conflicted, man, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think this team has dropped the ball on a few occasions and to say the least. And with Kerrigan coming back, I felt like recognition would be helpful. I feel like recognition would be something that's at least should be considered, because you don't really have another time to do it. Like, when he retires, what are you going to do? You're going to wait till he retires to bring him back. He just left. He gave you 10 years. He gave you excellent production in terms of statistical, like performance-wise, you know, we kind of talk about different, but statistical production, he gave you good stats. You know, his first game back in FedEx, you kind of went unrecognized. I felt like that was interesting, like the decision that they made, or was it a decision, or did they simply forget? Because they're capable of forgetting.
See, like, they forgot, really, man,
what be going on out here. So they could have easily just forgot that Ryan Kerrigan was on the opposite side, and they had nothing planned for him to begin with. Or they made the decision and said, we're not going to do nothing. I tend to lean that they forgot.
And I think they forgot. I think they're just that bad, man. Like, you don't, like, to me, this is if you don't know how big Sean Taylor is to this community, if you don't know how big he is, like, he's a mythical legend. If you don't know that, like, people cried when he died, like, you don't like, and people still talk about him. If you don't understand that, then you won't understand anybody that rocks that jersey. And I may not, like you, I think we kind of vibe the same way when it comes to Ryan Kerrigan. I may not think that Ryan Kerrigan was like almighty in terms of as an end rusher. I compared him to other individuals, but you can't. One, he worked hard. You give him credit where credit's due. He did work hard, and he, statistically speaking, man, he up there for the Washington football team, man. You know what I'm saying? So you got to give him his flowers. Like, you got to. That's something you got to do. Like, and it's something that, you know, we've seen this team in prior years, even with a jacked up president and Bruce Allen, celebrate individuals like Ryan Kerrigan, right? Like, we've seen that. Like, Ryan Kerrigan should have been shown his flowers. Like, I believe that. Like, and I'm not even a big, and anybody who knows me, I used to go to Washington games to cover, and I would sit in the press row and I'd be like, Ryan Kerrigan will never get off a block. Like, I always used to go ahead and just like, he'll never get off a block. You know, especially, look, he going against a backup. He can't dominate this backup. And like,
tight ends, man.
Yeah, tight ends, bruh. So I'm saying it on this show. Like, I ain't gonna be both. I ain't gonna be two-faced. I'm gonna keep it 100. I'm not the biggest Ryan Kerrigan fan, but I do know what he means to the fan base and what his production means to a lot of players, a lot of people who he played with. I know it. Like, so he should have got attention to for it. And that's sad. Like, this organization keeps taking L's like they do. They take L's all the damn time.
I must say, and for me, I understand it completely. I'm still torn. I just feel like I think if something was to occur, I do feel like I lean to the fact that they probably forgot more than anything. Too, that's a good thing. I'm just saying, I think they forgot. But I'm still torn. I don't know if he should have got it right now or later, but it's definitely something that was worth considering. And I that's if we had to look on the optimistic side, you hope that they thought about it or it was brought to before they made the decision to say, you know what, we're not going to have a tribute or a thank you or something like that, which is, you know, is weird, man. They did, like, if you think about it, I was sitting here thinking throughout the day and throughout the week of other examples. I mean, look, Bruce Boudreau in hockey, now that I think about it, I think he was the one, I'm not that familiar with the hockey stuff, but I think he was the one who gave the Caps their title, and he ended up going to the and they gave thank you when he came back, coaching the Islanders, and he was still there. Like, it wasn't like he retired or anything. When he came back with the Islanders, they gave him a tribute, a thank you. Was it him? It was somebody for sure that year. I want to say it was
Bruce Boudreau. I think it was Bruce Boudreau. You're right.
Okay, so I want to say it was him.
No, you're right. It's Bruce Boudreau. You're right.
Okay.
You're right.
They gave him a congratulations when he came back, and so I just think about other examples. It's not that many, but a guy who contributed that much to your organization to have his name up there in the top of the stats leaderboards, you would at least consider it. So that's kind of where I was.
No, I think there are other players that have, when they come back, they get their flowers. I mean, I've seen it on other teams. Ain't the Miami boy. I mean, well, Santana didn't go back and come back. Said Clinton. Nah, I mean, they stayed. The Miami boys stayed pretty much. There's some guys I feel like that have left and came back, and they've made sure they've gotten some type of acknowledgement. That was kind of weird to me. I'm not gonna lie. Maybe I'm sure I'm with you. I think they forgot. Like, it's a forgetful organization right now. I don't think they're just not good with that type of stuff at this moment. I'm gonna go to the Giants game before we roll out. All right, so Sunday, last game of the season, Washington takes on the New York Giants. Giants coach Joe Judge was talking real reckless, real greasy about the organization, saying that the Giants don't have players like Allen and Payne fighting on the sidelines and etc. How bad do you think Ron wants this game, and what were your thoughts on Joe Judge's comments?
The first one's easy. I think Ron wants to. I mean, he's a coach. He just wants to win. Like, in terms of how bad, like, I don't think a win or a loss does him any favors this week.
I know, right?
Trying to help yourself out, in the season on a high note. It is what it is. Yeah. In terms of Judge, now I've heard these quotes multiple days now, and it's just interesting. I don't know the type of coach that I don't pay too in depth in what, like, Joe Judge is or who he is as a person, but in the quotes that I've heard as it relates to Washington, last year he gave off the quotes that he was upset with Philly. Yeah. They tanked, and they let Washington get into the playoffs. This year, you said it already. He made mention about players fighting on the sideline. We don't have a trash organization. I don't think trash description, but he used another adjective to describe Washington's organization. But he just basically said that they were a trash organization. Got players fighting on the sidelines during the game and stuff like that. And I just thought it was interesting because it's like you had off-season. I think it was actually training camp. Issues where players were fighting in camp. The only difference was that it was not televised, though still put on social media. Like, I mean, it still happened. Yeah. Like, that's kind of what kind of shocks me is that, you say these things, you're frustrated because you're losing. You have 4 wins on this season, maybe 5. I don't remember, but like
4.
you haven't won in over a month, and you're trying to find ways to express to the media how much people love your organization, how much people want to come play with you. And at the end of the day, bruh, you got to realize, man, what you're saying isn't true.
Exactly.
What you're saying isn't true. And while the Washington football team may be a trash organization, throwing glass or throwing stones at glass houses or whatever the phrase is not a good look, because at the end of the day, words will always catch up to you, especially if it's hollow and you're just trying to find things to make things stick. And Judge, and to this point, to close out, Judge on this point, he's not necessarily upset at Washington, but he is throwing jabs at Washington. He's upset at the fact that he doesn't really have answers for his team. He doesn't really have answers for himself. But in the meantime, he'll distract you with something else that may seem worse than his situation, but he doesn't realize how bad it is in New York.
See, this is the game. If I was wrong, I'll get real petty. This is if I'm gonna be petty. This is my petty mode. Like, this is where, I'm coaching this game like it's the Super Bowl. Like, I'm not, and I'm talking about Bill Belichick style. I'm talking about when they went like 20, when they went undefeated in the season, like trying to score like 40 if you can, because Giants are typically for real giving up. Like I'll say they're pretty much giving up. They sitting down players, this, that, and the other. Like, I'm trying to put 40, and if even in the full quarter, I'm still airing that thing out. If I got 30, I'm still airing it out. Like, this is where you are petty. If anything, like, you stand up for yours and you get real petty with this one. Because to your point, dude, you coming at my squad like twice. Like you did last year and you did this year. And you've been catching L's with them though. Like, you didn't make the playoffs. Washington got the playoffs last year. Then if you want to go in, who did you play? You played on Thursday night. You played Washington on Thursday night. You lost. You caught an L. Right? Regardless of how it happened, you went offside. You called an L. So you called an L in the beginning of the season to Washington. Now the same situation. You're gonna finish last place in the NFC East. Like, you're going to finish, because they won 4 games. You're going to finish last in the NFC East. Last year, last year Washington had a better record than you. This year, you're gonna have a better record than you again. So you have a trash organization that who you claim has a trash organization finishing with a better record than you twice. Bro, you got to shut up. Like, it sounds all right. You could say all that when your organization is like, if you're better, like, real talk. If you're a better team, you could say like, man, Washington has a trash organization. Like, we're not like them, man. We heading into the playoffs, or we're looking upwards. Like, our season looks like we're looking like we're ascending. Like, we're looking like we're about to do something. Bro, you about to get fired. Like, in a year, you about to get fired. So for you to say any organization is trash, it's ridiculous. Like, you sound dumb. You know what I'm saying? You sound like that dude that talk trash just to talk trash. Like, you sound like that dude, dog. I just gave you 30. I gave you 30. Man, you sorry. How much you got? I got 2. Like, bro, no, you don't talk. No, you don't do that. Don't be that dude.
I got a friend like that. He hilarious. I love him. He a good athlete, but when he lose, he talk like you would have thought that he won the game.
Exactly.
That's how good he won. Like, bro, and like, you lost, bro. Just chalk it up. Like, you ain't got, man. I would say one thing, and I'm good with this. Like, I would say one thing. If Rivera, I don't care who Washington plays. Yeah. Like, on their side, if Rivera loses to a Mike Glennon team or Jake.
Look, man, we're gonna end on that because you're right. We're gonna end off that because you were so. I totally agree. Hey, before I let you go, how can I again tell our listeners how they can catch you on social media, and also how they can subscribe to your podcast?
Yeah, so Trapper Dive podcast is on all podcast platforms, iTunes, same thing, Google, all that other stuff. I think the simplest way I realized that, because I do terrible promo for myself, man. But the easiest way to do this is just to follow me on Twitter. You'll find every single thing that you need to find with Trapper Dive on there, because I put everything on there. So follow me on Twitter at Let Maul Tell It. That's MUAL, not MAL, because I know my name is different. But Let Maul
be different.
Yeah, I'm about to say be different. So let Maul tell it with the U, and you'll find everything there. So, Wole, I appreciate you. This is our first time talking, man, for real, and it's been a good chat, bro. I appreciate you, dog.
Man, same here, man. Appreciate you too, homie, man. Anytime you want to be on, let me know, man. Hey, subscribe to
I'm gonna chop it up to get you on our show too.
Sound good, man. Sound like a plan. Hey, subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, and Google Podcasts. Search All Burgundy to go everything with the Urban Sports Scene. Also, tweet us at Urban Sports Scene and hit us up on our Urban Sports Scene Facebook page. Make sure you subscribe to the Urban Sports Scene YouTube page as well. All right, man. First off, I want to thank my man Maul for being on. Appreciate you, homie. Really do appreciate you. All right, now I can say it. Anyway, you've been listening to All Burgundy and Gold, everything with the Urban Sports Scene on Fox Sports Radio 96.9 FM and 1340 AM. Hopewell, Virginia. 4 ages, did it? Deuces. A mega. Do this out, big homie.